Now, we've got an individual running in the state of Ohio for Senate, okay? And it's a crowded Republican race, to say the least. Mark Pikita joining me now. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Blue Daddy. How are you?
I'm good. So I just saw where the other day that they call it the 6 leading Republican candidates for Ohio Senate met on the stage for the first time. This would have been Sunday in Westerville. You weren't included. Why is that?
Well, because I criticized the Ohio Republican Party and their corruption, and I openly criticized Mike DeWine. And this is part of this interconnected, what I call codependent cesspool of corruption in Ohio politics. And they shut me out. They actually, they took criteria and they fraudulently changed them for me at the last minute to exclude me. And then they cut off our sponsorship package, which we were going to use to kind of highlight their corruption. So, I was the first candidate, Bloom Daddy. I was the first candidate to register with the FEC to primary Rob Portman. My campaign team says I got in before it was cool. Everybody else got in after he quit, which means to me that they must have thought he was doing a good job. I did not. I'm the only one that will say he's done a terrible job for Ohio. I'm the only one that will say the election was stolen from Donald Trump. I'm the only one that's saying the Ohio Republican Party is corrupt and needs reform.
So when I take a look at the lineup at this place, you have former state treasurer Josh Mandel, author and venture capitalist J.D. Vance, former Ohio GOP chair Jane Timken, state senator Matt Dolan, investment banker Mike Gibbons, and car dealer Bernie Marino. If I ask you, Mark Pikita, what separates you from those 6, what's your answer?
I'm the only true fighter in this race, and I've got substance. I come from a lower middle class family. I was fortunate enough to be able to work my way through college. I started my own business, employed thousands. It was an IT staffing business, grew it to $100 million in revenue, 800 employees, employed thousands over the years. And I sold it at the end of 2019, and I realized that my grandchildren will not have the same opportunity I did if we keep running the country the way we are. And not only do we need to change Washington, we need to change Columbus, and we need to change the Ohio Republican Party, which is completely corrupt.
When you say corrupt, what do you mean by that?
So I think grassroots Republican voters aren't aware that there's a $2 million accounting inconsistency that Bob Paduchik, the chairman of the Ohio Republican Party, refuses to have audited. Now, the bylaws of the Ohio Republican Party, the ORP, call for an audit every year. Do you know when the last time that audit was done?
Hit me.
16 years ago.
Okay.
16 years ago. This is stunning. And they get away with it because 80% of Republican voters are only Republicans on election day. So they keep it quiet. They keep it covered up. Here's another thing. Do you realize that Ohio ORP state central committee members get to endorse themselves for reelection, which means they get money, they get slate card access, they get access to staff, and they get access to large dollar donor lists. And then the ORP does these primary endorsements. We need to stop ORP primary endorsements because when you get an endorsement, like Mike DeWine is begging for an endorsement right now, because those 80% who are, less informed, less involved Ohio Republican voters end up getting a slate card in the mail with Mike DeWine's name on it, and they vote for him, right? But he's not the best choice. I've already said I won't vote for Mike DeWine if he goes forward. I won't vote for a Democrat, but I certainly won't vote for Mike DeWine.
Talking to Mark Pikita right now out of Dublin, Ohio, running for Ohio Senate, Republican. All right, Mark, I look at your 7-point agenda here. Strong national defense, conservative education policies like banning the 619 Project, stopping comprehensive sex education, protecting constitutional rights like free speech, gun rights, states' rights, crush the swamp, big tech, the deep state, unite behind an American Ohio First agenda, increase election security, transform government culture. That all sounds terrific. But we've seen people with these platforms go to Washington before, and all of a sudden they just fall by the wayside and they end up doing what every other politician does. And that is just get involved in the muck, in the mire, and it's the same old, same old. What would stop you from being that person?
Well, I think you need to look at my background, and people need to check my references. They need to talk to people who work for me. They need to talk to people who I've worked with and for as a business supplier to them. I'm a man of my word, but more importantly, what I've said is I will take the salary, but I will give it to charity, and it will be charities that Ohioans pick. The only requirement is that those charities in Ohio do not take government money, because that's the way government controls these charities. Those grants and those gifts come with strings, and they're big, fat, expensive, socialist, progressive strings. But more importantly than that, people say, well, you'll go to Washington, and then afterwards you'll be speaking, and you'll have book revenues and things like that. And I said, listen, to prove to you I want to go to serve, not prosper, I will give any revenue, any income associated with anything I had to do with the Senate to charity for the rest of my life. I challenge Ohio voters to challenge the other U.S. Senate candidates to make the same pledge.
Again, I'm talking to Mark Pikita, P-U-K-I-T-A, out of Dublin, Ohio. He's one of the Republican candidates for Ohio Senate. Mark, you said it yourself. You've ticked off the Republican Party in Ohio. So how do you win this thing? How do you get that nomination when you're the outsider and the party itself is not real warm to you?
Well, I think that I'm the protest candidate. So typical Republican primary, 650 to 750,000 voters. When Trump ran, over 2 million in the primary. We've got to get the protest voters out. Every one of those voters between 750 and 2 million was a protest voter, Bloom Daddy, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what we need. We need to get them out. So, and then we've got a great team of volunteers, and we're going and we're speaking. We're getting the message out. We're going to start a digital ad campaign here. I like our odds. I really like our odds, because if there's any year a long shot, kind of moonshot candidate who is a mini Trump, if you will. I would say I'm a mini Ron DeSantis, right? Mm-hmm. And I only say that because I'm 5'7", so I'm shorter than him. but it's just common sense policies, and I think Ohio voters are just fed up with the swamp rhinos in Columbus as well as in D.C.
Both your grandparents, coal miners in Northeast Pennsylvania. You went to Ohio State. You graduated with honors, like you just said, staunch Trump supporter, and you want to reduce the size of government. It's all things that a lot of people out there, I think, want, and I think you might resonate with a number of individuals. Mark, thanks for your time today. Best of luck to you.
Good, Eddie. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. That is Mark Pikita, P-U-K-I-T-A. Once again, one of the Republican candidates for the Ohio Senate. I got to hit a break. 800